The British Saloon Car Championship has been providing close racing and entertained fans since 1958. In the early years, it was Jaguar that dominated the winners' columns, before Ford took a stranglehold over the series by the mid-60s. Ford would become a major player across the years, and in the early days it was the Lotus-developed version of the Cortina that took the fight up to the bigger cars, winning races and championships all over the world as well as Britain. Behind the leaders, there was also plenty of competition in the smaller classes. The pride of Britain, the Mini Cooper, wrapping up many class wins as well as snapping at the heels of their bigger engined rivals. The Ford Capri was the car to have for outright wins by the end of the 1970s and into the early 80s. However, the switch to International Group A regulations in 1983 put Britain back in front with the Rover Vitesse, with challenges coming from the likes of BMW from Germany. Ford came back to the fore in 1985 when Andy Rouse debuted the Ford Sierra, going on to win the title, which gave him 3 championship wins in a row. 1986 saw a championship win from the baby class, with Chris Hodgetts and his self-prepared Toyota Corolla Levin wrapping up class win after class win to beat Rouse to the overall title. Hodgetts is back in 1987 to defend his crown in the same car, while Rouse is back as well with Ford's latest weapon, the Sierra Cosworth, while the championship gets a fresh title, now known as the British Touring Car Championship. The 1987 British Touring Car Championship gets underway on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone at the International Trophy meeting alongside the opening round of the 1987 Formula 3000 series. The main interest leading up to the opening round is the debut of the brand new Ford Sierra RS Cosworth. 2 ICS cars in the hands of Andy Rouse and Pete Hall, and the Listerine example being driven by Graham Good. Will be in a BMW 635 CSI, running as teammate to Mike Newman. The 635 was an outdated model in 1987, superseded by the M3, which isn't at the opening round. Frank Sittner will have one later in the season. This is how the calendar for the 1987 season looks, starting on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit before we head to Alton Park for round 2. Rounds 3 and 4 are separate meetings at Thruxton. Round 5 and 6, separate meetings at Silverstone again. Round 7, the only visit to Brands Hatch, before we head to Snetterton, Donington Park, a 1-hour race at Alton Park, a second Donington meeting, and then round out the season for a 4th trip to Silverstone. I did have a think about changing around some of the races, so obviously we didn't get the double up at Thruxton early in the season, or have to wait until the end of the season to go to Donington Park twice, and the fact it visited Silverstone 4 times in the one season, but in the end I thought that was the calendar for the season, so that's what we'll race with. One of the advantages of doing the series in our virtual world is that date clashes don't exist. So for instance, Andy Rouse in 1987 had to pick and choose the races he did that didn't clash with his assault on the World Touring Car Championship. Well, we don't have to worry about that. I thought, given Rouse would have entered all the rounds if he could have, then in this scenario we'll have him doing all the rounds, and some of the other guys who attempted to do most of the rounds, they'll be running the full season. Some of the other guys who picked and chose which races they do, that will still be represented during the season. For instance, a number of one-offs happened at the Silverstone Grand Prix support race, so they'll do a one-off at that event in our series, just like in real life. The point system. It's a little bit confusing. It'll take a while to shake itself out as the season goes on, but once you understand it, it does make a lot of sense and you can see what they were doing at the time. Basically, there's no points for outright positions. Points are paid in the classic Formula 1 point scoring system of 9, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 for each class, and that then also correlates to your overall championship point standings. So for instance, the person that wins Class A gets the same amount of points in the overall championship as the driver who wins Class D. Something in the point structure that will affect particularly Class C, as that had very few entrants during the season, is that if your class had less than 5 starters, points went to the first 3 in a 5-3-1 structure. The only part in terms of the point structure that will differ slightly for our series is that there was a bonus point in each class for the fastest lap, but in terms of ease of going through the results, I'll be awarding that 1 point to the fastest qualifier in each class rather than the fastest lap in the race. So we pull away for the warm-up lap for the 1987 British Touring Car Championship Round 1 from the Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. Tense times, this will get rid of a few of the nerves before the start of the new season. So why the 1987 British Touring Car Championship? Why are we doing this? To me, it's a bit of a forgotten year in terms of the history of the British Touring Car Championship. It was the first year it was known as the British Touring Car Championship. It had been the British Saloon Car Championship since 1958, and this year the series had been in a bit of a lull as the Group A years wore on from 83 onwards, and by the time we got to 1986 the fields had really dropped off, especially up the pointy end. But for 1987 there was a little bit of a resurgence. Obviously you had 2 Andy Rouse ICS Sierras, you had new blood like Tim Harvey. As the year wore on, Frank Sittner came along. It got very much more competitive at the front of the field, but there wasn't obviously the media attention that we saw in later years, because it wasn't until 1988 that the BBC full season TV deal came into effect. The 87 series was covered in highlight form for a number of the rounds by Hayfisher Productions, who of course for many years before 87 were doing the European Touring Car Championship and the odd British Touring Car event. But the BBC did cover the final round of the 87 Championship live, as they had done in a couple of years beforehand, but 88 was when the media coverage really got serious, and obviously the 88 Championship was very competitive, and it built up through to the end of Group A in 1990 and the Class 2 2-litre regulations that came into effect for 1991. So that's why I want to do this season. It's a bit forgotten, but there's a good number of cars, good mixture of the traditional British circuits from the time, and I think it'll make a good little championship. So with that, let's go have a look at how the grid lines up for the first round of the season. Qualifying was a messy affair, with Jeff Kimber-Smith struggling with a problem which hampered a lot of the drivers trying to set their fast lap times and caused a number of incidents which ultimately led to a very mixed up grid. But pole position goes to Tim Harvey in his debut in the championship in the Estelle Rover, car number 8, 1 minute 42.569. He's joined on the front row by Mike Newman in the Burlington Newman's Footwear BMW 635. Position 3, car number 5, another Rover, David Carvel. And out of position 4, that's us, Russ Dugman, car number 12, second of the BMW 635 CSIs, 1 minute 44.293. Position 5, the first of the new Sierras, Pete Hall, car number 2, 1 minute 44.783, joined on the third row of the grid by Graham Scarborough in another Rover. Position 7, the first of the Class D cars, Chris Hodgetts, a long way up the grid, a great effort in the Toyota Corolla, 1 minute 46.994. He's a long way ahead of his fellow class contestants. Position number 8, the first of the Class B cars, the brand new Alpha 75 Turbo of Rob Kirby. Position 9, the first Class C car, the Metro of Roger Saunders, 1 minute 48.342, and the top 10 is rounded out by Graham Good in the brand new Listerine Sierra. He was one of the victims of Jeff Kimber-Smith cruising around with a problem. Position 11, second of the Class D runners, Alan Minshaw in the second of the Chris Hodgetts Toyotas. Position 12, Tony Crudgington in another Class D Toyota. From 13, Alex Moss, the third of the Chris Hodgetts entries in Class D. Position 14, Mark Goddard, Ford Escort. He's a Class D runner. Position 15, the second of the John West Alphas, John Dooley, 1 minute 53.244, joined on the 8th row by Phil Dowsett in another of the Class D Ford Escorts. Position 17, Colin Piercy in the Metro. He had no time set due to getting caught up in an incident, and that goes for the rest of the qualifiers. 18 is the culprit, Jeff Kimber-Smith, who caused a lot of dramas. Position 19, another Class A runner, Dennis Leach in the Rover. Expect him to storm through. Position 20, Carl Jones in a Class B Ford Escort Turbo. Position 21, another of the Escorts, Mark Hales in car number 38. Position 22, Graham Hathaway in the third of the Turbo Escorts from Class B. And off the tail of the field, the pre-race favourite, Andy Rouse. No time set in qualifying, but expect him to charge through the field. Coming up to the brand new for 1987 Woodcote chicane. Swing left and swing right. This replaces the previous Woodcote chicane, which is still there, as you'll see on the right. But this was deemed a bit more safer. So, as we pull up to the grid, anticipation's reaching fever pitch. We'll pull into our grid spot, and then the other cars will get into position, and the 87 season will be underway. And away we go for the 87 British Touring Car Championship. Mike Newman's ahead of us. We've got a bit of a better start, but Pete Hall pulls ahead of us as we come down to turn 1. Back to third gear. Oh, and we've got, I think it's Graham Scarborough in the Rover, barges his way ahead of us. Looks like Graham Good in our mirrors. He's made a good start from 10th spot on the grid after the problematic qualifying session. Back to third gear for Beckett's. And then the long run down towards Stowe along the Hanger Straight. Fifth gear, the beautiful sound of the 635 BMW. Got Graham Good behind us in the Listerine Sierra. Back to fourth. Thought he was going to have a dive on the inside. I went a little bit deep, but it's the beauty of Stowe. You can sort of hold an outside line. Back to fourth. On the curb, Andy Rouse. He's made a flying start. He's behind us now. Off the back of the grid. After his problems in qualifying, it shows just how good. Oh, into the back of Scarborough. Sorry, Graham. Into the new chicane. He was on the brakes a bit earlier than me. So round for the completion of the first lap. Through Woodcote. Down now to Cops. We've got Pete Hall ahead of us. 14 laps to go. They're not the longest races. Through Cops. You don't want to get too high on the big curb there because it will bounce you off to the exit of the turn. And look at the power of the Sierra as Andy Rouse cleans us up. Back to third for Beckett's. Tail comes around a bit. Rouse is up behind his teammate, Pete Hall. Down the long run down to Stowe Corner. Rouse is pulling out. Gets his teammate, who's also his sponsor. Pete Hall running the ICS company. At the time, through Club Corner Up now to Abbey Curve. It's got to feather the throttle a little bit. You don't want to get on the curb too much, but if you sort of miss the apex, it's easy to go very wide. We won't get into the back of him like we did Graham Scarborough last time. We'll climb over the curbs. Looks like Rouse was a bit sideways there. So round lap 2 in the books. Power of the Sierra gets away from us. Down to turn 1. Can we have a go at Pete Hall? Back to 3rd. Oof. Shouldn't have done that. Got on the curb. Hall skips away. I could listen to this BMW sing all day long. Back to 4th. Around Stowe. Beautiful sunny day. Club corner. Oh, shouldn't have. Don't want to do that too many times. 5th gear. Through Abbey. Can we have a go at Hall? Oh, we can. A bit desperate, but we got the job done. Hall will have a go at us down the front straight. The power of the brand new Cosworth RS. It's gonna be a problem, probably not just today but most of the season. Through Maggots. Get up the inside. When he comes across, we get Touchy's door. Away he goes. Tim Harvey's in 4th. Front of the Shell grandstand at Stowe Corner. Up to Club, of course, the modern Silverstone. This is the front straight basically we're on now, and of course it swings right instead of left. Through. We'll have another go at Pete Hall up into the chicane. Up on the curb. Can we get enough of a brake on him that he won't get past us into turn 1? He's near us, but late on the brakes, managed to hold it. Tim Harvey's the next car ahead. He's having his own battle with David Carvel in the Castrol Rover. Dennis Leach, he started off the back of the grid as well. He's not too far behind. 5th gear under the Goodyear Bridge, halfway down Hanger Straight. Is Hall going to pass us? Or? Oh! He's going to nudge us off, and our teammate is also off. So not a good corner for us. Hall really pulled back on the line and carted us off as we get back up to Dennis Leach. And the Demon tweaks Rover Vitesse. Get Leach, we will. Almost got Hall. Oh, Leach comes back. Not our lap, we got Graham Good. Now getting amongst us. Down to 7th. So our teammate Mike Newman is out, which is a shame. Not a great way to start the season. Especially with the way the championship format works. But Graham Scarborough might want to make a bit of revenge on lap 1. The way the championship format works, because there's such a competitive Class A, there's going to be a lot of points getting swapped, whereas cars in the lower class, which isn't as competitive, they'll likely score high points each time, so much better run than the Sierra through there. And through, we'll have a dive. Second gear, I think we've got Graham Good. Have we? He's coming back, he gets into Dennis Leach. Five-way battle going here for 4th place. Oh. Oh. We locked the rears. Bounced off Graham Scarborough. Can't lose our cool. Dennis Leach has now gotten underneath Pete Hall. So he's into 4th. The two Cosworth Sierras back to 5th and 6th. We're down in 8th, so we're not even in the points at the moment. Of course, points to the top 6 in each class. So each class, the winner gets 9 points. Plus, as I said in the opener, 1 point for pole position. Through Scarborough in the Letchworth Roofing Rover. We'll get by him. Up onto the tail of Graham Good. But I mean, this championship point score will play out, and you'll see that just because Chris Odgets is running down the order, sideways, if he wins Class D, he's going to get as many points as Andy Rouse or whoever gets for winning the race outright. Just how the points were back in the day. designed to keep interest in the smaller classes, and obviously not to discourage people from entering if you had a small class car, because you could still win the championship. Was late on the brakes there. Oh, and we've been hit by Graham Scarborough. And unceremoniously dumped. And I think we've got a puncture. Front left. So we'll come to the pits. That's hugely disappointing. We'll be going for softs. And we'll just take the replacement tyre. I think if we've got any bent suspension or something, we'll just put up with it. Just past halfway. Into the pits. So it'll take them 21 seconds to change the tyres, then we'll be back into it. So disappointing. So we'll leave the pits. We've got Tony Crudgington leaving the pits behind us. Oh, he's coming into the pits rather. And we are trailing smoke. Which is probably not good. So 19th place. Phil Dowsett and Mark Goddard are ahead of us in their little escorts. So we've got some guys to try and catch, but that's really disappointing. Scarborough obviously remembered what we did on lap 1, because he's cleaned us up. Oh, that's... Thank God for a bit of extra tarmac. Up to the chicane. We've got cars in our rearview mirrors, which doesn't want to turn left, which I would say is probably the leaders. So across the line. Got the blue flags out. Tim Harvey is behind us. We'll stick to the left, and look, he gives us a nudge. We'll let him go. Engine severely down on power. I mean, there was no point waiting for all that to get repaired because we'll be sitting... We'd be sitting around for a long time in the pit lane. Back to 4th gear. Not wanting to turn left. Got no horsepower. Big lead for Tim Harvey. If he was the leader, which bounce it over the curb. See if that can make us some time, or at least make it easier to turn right. And David Carvel looks like he's out of the race. So we've made a spot. So it's one of the Rovers down. And Tim Harvey's off in the Icedale Rover. At Beckett's, so one wonders what's happened there. And our engine has cried enough. As Dennis Leach comes past us, we will pull off. That's really disappointing. Not a good start to our 87 campaign. So we'll roll the car inside Stowe corner. What a shame. So 10 laps completed and we're out of action. A really disappointing result for us in this race, but such a fun race to be part of during the early stages. We had a great dice going on there for the sort of the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th region with the Rovers, the Sierras, our BMW. So there's every indication it'll be quite a close season. Andy Rouse stormed from the back of the grid and managed to end up taking a very easy win in the ICS Ford Sierra, over 40 seconds clear of Dennis Leach in the Rover, who also started from the back of the field in 19th. Third was Graham Good in the Listerine Sierra. He too, of course, started from 10th place on the grid, so had to work his way through. Graham Hathaway, he wins Class B in his white Ford Escort, and in 6th place, right behind Hathaway, is Chris Hodgetts, the giant killing performance again from the Class D Toyota. So let's confirm the results. Andy Rouse winning from Dennis Leach, Graham Good, Graham Scarborough, Graham Hathaway, and Chris Hodgetts finishes 6th. Roger Saunders was 7th in his Metro, winner of Class C. He was followed home by Colin Piercy in the blue and white Metro. John Dooley on his debut in the Alpha, he comes home 9th. Alan Minshaw 10th in the second of Chris Hodgetts Corollas. 11th was Jeff Kimber-Smith, and 12th place for Mark Goddard in the Ford Escort. So that leaves the championship positions looking like this after round 1. Now the points are going to play out as the season goes on. So as we can see, Chris Hodgetts, through getting pole position and winning his class outright, has 10 points. Andy Rouse in second, of course, didn't get the bonus point but won his class outright, so he has 9 points, as did Graham Hathaway. Dennis Leach, second place, so he gets 6 points. Roger Saunders, he won Class C, but as there was less than 5 entries, he gets 5 points for the win, plus the 1 point for pole position in the class, while John Dooley and Alan Minshaw, for getting second in each of their classes, they have 6 points. So as the series goes on, obviously we'll pay more attention to the individual class points, but after round 1, this is how the top end of the overall point standings look. So we'll leave Silverstone with a bit of the exciting action on camera, and we look forward to round number 2 coming up soon at Alton Park. Look forward to your company then. Bye for now.